Emma Carter thought she could disappear. For 2 years, she'd hidden herself in the secret growing inside her from the most dangerous man she'd ever loved, Mafia Boss Dante Castellano. But today, 8 months pregnant and desperate to finalize their divorce, she walks straight into the lion's den. The moment Dante's eyes lock onto her swollen belly, everything changes. His shock, her terror, their unborn child caught between them. Some secrets are too big to hide. Some men are too powerful to escape. And some love stories are written in blood and redemption. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The elevator doors slid open with a whisper, revealing a lobby that screamed wealth and power in every polished marble surface, every gleaming chrome fixture. Emma Carter stood frozen for a heartbeat, her hand instinctively moving to the swell of her belly beneath the oversized coat she'd chosen specifically to hide her condition. 8 months. She'd managed to stay hidden for 8 months, moving from city to city, using cash, avoiding cameras, living like a ghost. And now she was walking straight back into his world. Just sign the papers and leave, she told herself, forcing one foot in front of the other. He won't even be here. Richard said it would just be the lawyers. The baby kicked, a strong, insistent movement that made Emma's breath catch. Even her daughter seemed to sense the tension, the danger of this place, this building, this city, this man who owned both. Carter? A young woman in an immaculate suit appeared at her elbow, tablet in hand, professional smile firmly in place. Mr. Castellano's legal team is ready for you. 32nd floor, conference room A. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice. The woman gestured toward a private elevator bank, separate from the public lifts. Of course, Dante would have his own elevators. He had his own everything: buildings, businesses, politicians, judges. And once, he'd had her. The elevator ride felt eternal and too short all at once. Emma watched the numbers climb, each floor marking her ascent into a world she'd sworn she'd never return to. 25, 28, 30. The doors opened directly into a reception area that managed to be both elegant and intimidating. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Chicago skyline, the late afternoon sun turning the glass towers into pillars of fire. A young man, another assistant undoubtedly, led her down a hallway lined with contemporary art that probably cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. Right through here, he said, opening double doors to reveal a conference room dominated by an enormous table of dark wood. 3 people sat on the far side, 2 lawyers in expensive suits flanking an empty chair. No Dante. Emma felt her shoulders relax fractionally. She could do this, sign the papers, leave, disappear again. She'd planned it all: a bus to Indianapolis, then a train to Memphis, then another bus to a small town in Arkansas where she'd already rented a tiny apartment under a fake name. By the time anyone traced her route, she'd be gone again. Ms. Carter, the older lawyer, Richard Moss, Dante's head counsel, stood, gesturing to a chair across from them. Please sit. Can we get you anything? Water? Coffee? Water would be fine. Her mouth felt like sandpaper. Richard nodded to the assistant, who disappeared and returned moments later with a crystal glass of water with lemon. Emma took it gratefully, letting the cool liquid soothe her throat. Now then, Richard opened a leather folder, revealing a stack of documents. These are the final divorce papers. As you can see, Mr. Castellano has been exceptionally generous with the settlement. The apartment on Lakeshore Drive, fully paid. A trust fund that will provide you with $50,000 monthly for life. Access to— I don't want his money, Emma interrupted, her voice sharper than intended. I told you that from the beginning. I just want the divorce finalized. I just want to be free. A brief, uncomfortable silence fell. The 2 lawyers exchanged glances. Ms. Carter, the younger lawyer, a woman with severe features and calculating eyes, leaned forward. You should understand that turning down this settlement would be— I don't care what it would be, Emma said firmly. I didn't marry him for his money. I'm not divorcing him for his money. I just want this over. Richard's expression softened slightly. Emma, you've been gone for 2 years. In all that time, Dante never stopped looking for you. He's asked us repeatedly if we'd heard from you. When you finally contacted me about the divorce, he agreed immediately to whatever terms you wanted. This settlement isn't about buying you. It's about making sure you're taken care of. Something twisted in Emma's chest at that. The baby kicked again, harder this time, and she had to bite back a gasp. Taken care of. If Dante knew about the baby, his definition of taken care of would mean something very different. It would mean a gilded cage, bodyguards, security details. It would mean raising their daughter in a world of violence and blood money, where every friend was a potential threat and every moment outside their fortress was a calculated risk. No, she'd escape that life once. She'd do whatever it took to keep her daughter free of it. "Just show me where to sign," she said quietly. Richard hesitated, then slid the documents across the table along with an expensive pen. Emma pulled the papers closer, scanning the legal language. Dissolution of marriage. Division of assets. She flipped through page after page, her hand shaking slightly as she signed each designated line. She was on the 7th page when she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway, confident, familiar. A cadence she'd recognize anywhere. Emma's pen froze mid-signature. Her head snapped up, eyes wide, meeting Richard's suddenly guilty expression. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "He insisted on being here. I tried to—" The conference room doors swung open, and there he was. Dante Castellano walked into the room like he owned it, which technically he did. He owned the building, the company, probably half the city. But it wasn't ownership that made every eye turn toward him. It was presence, pure, undeniable presence. He'd always had it, that quality that made him impossible to ignore. 6'3" of lean muscle in a custom charcoal suit that probably cost more than a car. Dark hair perfectly styled, sharp jawline, and those eyes, gray like storm clouds, capable of either fury or tenderness, and right now scanning the room with laser focus until they found her. Emma's breath caught. 2 years. It had been 2 years since she'd seen him, and the impact of his presence hit her like a physical force. She'd forgotten, or maybe forced herself to forget, how beautiful he was, how dangerous, how the simple act of him entering a room could change the entire atmosphere. His eyes locked onto hers, and for a moment, the world seemed to stop. Then his gaze dropped lower. Emma saw the exact moment he noticed. She was standing now. When had she stood? And the coat that had seemed so concealing in her apartment mirror suddenly felt transparent. The way she was angled, one hand unconsciously protective over her belly, the unmistakable curve visible even through the heavy fabric. The color drained from Dante's face. "Everyone out," he said, his voice deadly quiet. The lawyers scrambled to their feet. Richard opened his mouth, perhaps to protest, perhaps to mediate, but the look Dante shot him could have frozen fire. Within seconds, the conference room was empty except for Emma and Dante, the door clicking shut behind the retreating legal team. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. Dante took one step forward. Emma took one step back. "Is it mine?" His voice was rough, like gravel and broken glass. Emma's hand tightened over her belly. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. She was 32 floors up, with the only exit blocked by 6 feet of dangerous, devastated man. "Emma!" He said her name like a prayer and a curse. "Answer me. Is that baby mine?" She lifted her chin, forcing herself to meet his eyes. "It doesn't matter." "The hell it doesn't." The words exploded from him, and Emma flinched. Immediately, Dante's expression shifted, anguish replacing anger. He held up his hands, stepping back. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." He dragged his hands through his hair, destroying its perfect style. "Just tell me, please." The please broke something inside her. She'd heard Dante command, demand, order. She'd heard him threaten and promise. But she'd rarely heard him beg. "Yes," she whispered. "She's yours." "She." Dante's voice cracked on the word. "A daughter." He moved then, crossing the distance between them in 3 long strides. Emma tensed, but he didn't touch her. He stopped just inches away, his eyes fixed on her belly, like it held the secrets of the universe. "Can I—" He raised one hand, hovering near her coat. "May I?" Emma knew she should say no, knew she should maintain the distance, keep the walls up, but the look on his face, the raw wonder and pain and desperate hope, shattered her resolve. She nodded. With trembling fingers, Dante unbuttoned her coat. Emma let it fall open, revealing the simple dress beneath that couldn't hide her pregnancy. His hand settled over the curve, large and warm and gentle. For a moment, they both stood frozen. Then the baby kicked. Dante jerked like he'd been shocked, his eyes flying to Emma's face. Was that— "She's active today," Emma said quietly. "Probably can sense my stress." "Our daughter," Dante breathed. His other hand came up, cradling her belly from both sides now. "We're having a daughter." The wonder in his voice nearly undid her. This was why she'd run. Not because she didn't love him, but because she loved him too much. Loved him enough to know that he would never willingly let her go if he knew about the baby. Loved him enough to believe he deserved better than the life he'd been living. Loved him enough to hope that maybe, someday, he could be free of the darkness that surrounded him. But she'd also known that as long as he was Dante Castellano, head of the most powerful crime family in Chicago, their daughter would never be safe, never be free, never be just a normal child with a normal life. "How far along?" Dante asked, his hand still cradling her belly like it was the most precious thing in the world. 32 weeks. "When did you find out?" "After I left." His jaw tightened. "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" "I thought she deserved to grow up alive," Emma shot back. "I thought she deserved a chance at a normal life, not bodyguards and safe houses and wondering which of Daddy's enemies might try to hurt her to get to him." Dante flinched like she'd slapped him, but he didn't let go. "I would have protected you, both of you." "Like you protected yourself?" Emma's voice broke. "Like you protected Marco?" The name hung in the air between them like a ghost. Marco Russo, Dante's best friend since childhood, his most trusted lieutenant. The man who'd been gunned down in the street 2 years and 3 months ago, killed by a rival family sending a message. Emma had been there. She'd seen Marco die in a pool of blood on the pavement while Dante roared and raged and held his friend's body. That night, she'd realized the truth. Loving Dante Castellano meant watching everyone around him die. It meant living with a target on her back. And she could survive that for herself, but not for a child. Never for a child. "That's why you left," Dante said quietly. "It wasn't a question." "Marco's death." "That was when I knew I had to," Emma confirmed. "But I'd been planning it since our wedding day, when your uncle pulled me aside and told me exactly what kind of man I'd married. When he explained in graphic detail what happened to the wives and children of men in your position. When he showed me the photos of— Don't. Bijou. Dante's voice turned sharp. "Whatever Vittorio told you, whatever he showed you, was the truth," Emma finished. "You know it was. Children kidnapped and ransomed, wives murdered to send messages, families destroyed because of business deals gone wrong. That's your world, Dante. That's the legacy you're part of." "Was," Dante said fiercely. His hands tightened on her belly, not painfully, but possessively. "Was part of— past tense, Emma. I've changed things. The organization is different now, cleaner, legitimate businesses, legal operations. Money laundering is still illegal, even if the restaurants serving as fronts are real. We've been transitioning. To what? Respectability?" Emma laughed bitterly. "You can't transition out of what you are. The Castellano family has been running this city for 3 generations. You think you can just walk away because you want to play house?" "Yes," Dante said simply. "If that's what it takes to have you, to have our daughter, then yes, I'll walk away from all of it." Emma stared at him, searching his face for the lie, but she saw only terrible sincerity. "You don't mean that," she whispered. "Try me." He finally released her belly, only to cup her face between his hands. "Emma, listen to me. I've spent 2 years looking for you. 2 years wondering if you were alive or dead, safe or suffering. 2 years of hell knowing you'd left me and not understanding why. Now I know. And you're right. You were right to be afraid. But I'm offering you a choice. Give me a chance to prove things can be different. Let me show you that I can build something better. For you, for our daughter, for us." "Dante, 1 month," he interrupted. "Stay for 1 month. Let me take care of you. Make sure you and the baby are healthy and safe. If at the end of that time you still want to leave, I'll let you go. I'll sign whatever papers you want, give you whatever resources you need, and I won't look for you again. But please, please don't run away with my child without giving me a chance to be a father. Emma wanted to refuse. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a mistake, that she should grab her coat and run and never look back. But her body was exhausted from 2 years of running, her heart ached with loneliness and fear, and the baby was moving insistently against Dante's palm as if she could sense her father's presence. 4 weeks, she heard herself say, but I need to see real change, Dante, not promises, not plans, actual concrete evidence that you're serious about leaving that life behind. You'll have it, Dante promised. Then slowly, giving her time to pull away, he leaned forward and pressed his forehead against hers. Thank you, he breathed. Thank you for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. They stood like that for a long moment, two people who'd once loved each other desperately trying to find their way back through 2 years of hurt and fear and separation. Finally, Emma pulled away. I need to sit down, she admitted. My back is killing me. Immediately, Dante's hands were on her shoulders, guiding her toward a chair with such careful tenderness it made her throat tight. When was your last doctor's appointment? He asked. 3 weeks ago. Everything was fine. You need a new doctor, the best in the city. I'll have my assistant. Dante? Emma caught his hand. No assistants, no security details checking up on me. No guards following me to appointments. If I'm staying, I need some autonomy, some privacy. She watched him struggle with that, saw the war in his eyes between his need to protect and his desire to give her what she needed. Finally, he nodded. Okay, but you have to promise me you'll be careful, that you'll let me know where you're going and when you'll be back. Not because I'm controlling you, because I need to know you're safe. I can do that, Emma agreed quietly. Dante pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. I'm having my driver bring the car around. We'll go to the penthouse. You can have your own room, your own space, whatever you need. I have an apartment. Where? His tone sharpened. Emma hesitated. She'd been so careful not to leave a trail, paying cash for everything, using fake names. But one look at Dante's face told her that he'd find out anyway. He had resources she couldn't begin to match. Pilsen, she admitted, a studio above a bodega. Dante's jaw tightened, but he didn't comment on the neighborhood, one of the rougher areas of the city, far from the safe, wealthy enclaves where he operated. We'll send someone to pack up your things and bring them to the penthouse. You shouldn't be climbing stairs in your condition. It's only 2 flights. Emma. His voice was gentle but firm. Let me take care of you, please. You've been doing everything alone for so long. Let me help. And there it was, the core of Dante that had made her fall in love with him in the first place. Beneath the dangerous exterior, the ruthless reputation, there was a man who cared so deeply it sometimes seemed to overwhelm him. A man who protected what was his with fierce devotion. A man who, despite everything, genuinely wanted to do right by the people he loved. The problem had always been that his methods of protection, his definition of doing right, involved violence and intimidation and operating outside the law. Could he really change that? Could a man like Dante Castellano truly walk away from the empire he'd inherited and built? Emma didn't know. But as she felt the baby move again, strong and insistent, she realized she had to find out. Not just for herself, but for their daughter. Every child deserved to know their father, and every father deserved a chance to be better than his worst choices. Okay, she said quietly. Let's go to the penthouse. The drive through Chicago's downtown streets felt surreal. Emma sat in the back of Dante's town car, armor-plated, she noticed, with bulletproof glass, watching the city slide past. Dante sat beside her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his presence like heat from a fire. When did you know? He asked quietly. About the pregnancy. 6 weeks after I left, Emma admitted. I was in Detroit working at a diner. I kept getting sick during the morning shift. One of the other waitresses figured it out before I did. Detroit. Dante's voice was carefully neutral. You were that close. For 2 months. Then I went to Cleveland, then Pittsburgh, then Richmond. She didn't mention the dozen other cities, the constantly changing names and appearances, the paranoia that had become her constant companion. I kept moving, kept waiting for you to find me. I looked, Dante said, pain evident in his voice. I had people searching everywhere, but you were smart. No credit cards, no phone, no digital footprint. It was like you'd vanished into thin air. That was the idea. Why come back now? Why risk contacting Richard about the divorce? Emma was quiet for a long moment. Because she deserves a birth certificate with her father's name on it, she finally said. Because even if I never wanted you to know about her, even if I planned to raise her alone, I couldn't bring myself to erase you completely. You have a right to be acknowledged as her father, even if— Her voice caught. Even if you couldn't be part of her life. Dante turned to look at her fully, and Emma was startled to see tears in his eyes. You were going to let me sign away my parental rights without knowing I was doing it, he said hoarsely. The divorce papers. That clause about waiving all claims to any biological children of the marriage. You were going to trick me into giving up our daughter. Guilt twisted in Emma's stomach because he was right. That had been the plan. Get the divorce finalized. Let Dante unknowingly sign away his rights. Then disappear one final time with legal protection that would prevent him from claiming their daughter, even if he eventually found out about her. I was trying to protect her, Emma whispered. From me. The anguish in Dante's voice cut like a knife. You were trying to protect our child from her own father. From your world, Emma corrected. Not from you, never from you, Dante, but from the life you lead, the enemies you've made, the violence that follows you everywhere. I couldn't— Her voice broke. I couldn't watch our baby grow up afraid. I couldn't live wondering every day if this would be the day someone decided to hurt her to get to you. The car pulled up to a high-rise tower in the Gold Coast neighborhood, one of the most expensive addresses in the city. The driver, a massive man with alert eyes and a bulge under his jacket that spoke of concealed weapons, opened the door and offered Emma his hand. Thank you, she murmured, accepting his help out of the car. The baby's weight had shifted, pressing on her bladder and making every movement awkward. Ma'am. The driver nodded respectfully, but his eyes were scanning the street, the nearby buildings, cataloging threats with professional efficiency. See, Emma thought, this is what I mean. Even a simple car ride requires armed guards and tactical awareness. But she didn't say it aloud as Dante guided her through the building's opulent lobby toward a private elevator. The doorman and concierge greeted him with respectful nods, carefully not staring at Emma despite her obvious pregnancy and disheveled appearance. The elevator rose smoothly to the top floor. When the doors opened, they revealed not a hallway, but a private foyer that led directly into Dante's penthouse. Emma had been here before, of course. She'd lived here during their brief marriage. But somehow, walking through that door now felt different, more final, like she was crossing a threshold she could never uncross. The penthouse was exactly as she remembered, floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city and lake, modern furniture in shades of gray and white, expensive art on the walls. Tasteful, elegant, and utterly impersonal. Dante had never been one for clutter or personal touches. His home looked more like a luxury hotel suite than a place where someone actually lived. You should rest, Dante said, his hand gentle on the small of her back. The master suite is— I remember where it is, Emma said quietly. Something flickered in his eyes, hope, maybe, or longing. I haven't changed anything. Your things, the clothes you left behind, they're all still there. You kept them. Emma was surprised. She'd assumed he would have thrown everything away in anger when she disappeared. I kept hoping you'd come back for them, Dante admitted. Kept hoping you'd come back, period. Every day for 2 years, I walked into that closet and saw your dresses hanging there, your shoes lined up, and I let myself believe that maybe today would be the day you came home. The raw honesty in his voice made Emma's chest ache. She'd been so focused on protecting herself and the baby, so consumed by fear of Dante's world, that she'd never fully considered what her disappearance had done to him. How it must have felt to wake up one morning and find her gone without explanation, without warning, without even a note. I'm sorry, she whispered, for the way I left, for not giving you a chance to— No. Dante shook his head firmly. Don't apologize for protecting yourself and our daughter. You did what you thought you had to do. I can't fault you for that, even if it— He broke off, jaw tight. Even if it nearly destroyed me. They stood in uncomfortable silence for a moment, the weight of 2 years of pain and separation pressing down on them. Finally, Emma broke the quiet. I really do need to lie down. The drive, the stress, all of it. I'm exhausted. Of course. Dante immediately shifted into caretaker mode. Let me show you. Actually, you said you remember. Do you need help? Water? Food? The kitchen is fully stocked, or I can order anything you want. Just rest, Emma assured him. Maybe some water. She made her way to the master suite, her hand trailing along the familiar hallway wall. The bedroom was exactly as she remembered. Enormous bed with pristine white linens, sitting area by the windows, ensuite bathroom that was larger than her entire studio apartment in Pilsen. Emma sat on the edge of the bed, then lay back with a sigh of relief. The mattress was memory foam, expensive and comfortable, cradling her tired body perfectly. She closed her eyes, intending to rest for just a few minutes. When she opened them again, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. She must have slept for hours. Emma sat up slowly, feeling the baby stretch and shift inside her. "Hey, little one," she murmured, rubbing her belly. "What have we gotten ourselves into?" The baby kicked in response, a firm thump against Emma's ribs that made her smile despite everything. A soft knock sounded at the door. "Emma? You awake? Come in." Dante entered carrying a tray with water, fresh fruit, and what looked like homemade soup. "I thought you might be hungry when you woke up. Mrs. Chen made her chicken soup. I remembered you always liked it." Mrs. Chen, the penthouse's housekeeper and occasional cook. Emma had loved the older woman's kindness and her amazing food. "Mrs. Chen is still with you?" "Of course. She asks about you sometimes. Misses you." Dante set the tray on the bedside table. "I haven't told anyone you're here yet. I thought you might want some time to adjust before everyone knows the runaway wife is back and pregnant," Emma finished dryly. "Before you have to deal with questions and explanations you're not ready to give," Dante corrected gently. Emma picked up the water glass, drinking deeply. She was dehydrated, she realized. Probably had been for days, maybe weeks. Running had meant surviving, and surviving had meant ignoring her own needs in favor of staying hidden. "Try the soup," Dante urged. "You need to eat, both of you." Emma took a spoonful, and the familiar flavors made her throat tight with unexpected emotion. It tasted like comfort, like home, like all the things she'd run away from and secretly missed. "Thank you," she said quietly. Dante settled into the chair by the window, careful to keep distance between them. "I called a doctor. Dr. Sarah Winters. She specializes in high-risk pregnancies. She's coming by tomorrow morning to do a full examination, make sure everything is okay with you and the baby." "I'm not high risk," Emma protested. "You've been living in hiding for 8 months with irregular prenatal care, and God knows what kind of stress and inadequate nutrition," Dante said flatly. "That makes you high risk. Dr. Winters is the best in the city. She'll make sure you and our daughter are healthy." Emma wanted to argue, but she was too tired, and truthfully, the thought of proper medical care, of making sure the baby was okay, was incredibly appealing. "Fine, but no daily check-ins or constant monitoring. One appointment, and if everything is fine, we go to a normal schedule." "Agreed." Dante relaxed slightly. "Also, I've started making calls, reaching out to people about transitioning some of the business operations." "Dante, you don't have to—" "Yes, I do." His voice was firm. "You said you needed to see concrete change, not just promises. So that's what I'm giving you. Starting tomorrow, I'm meeting with the heads of our various operations to begin the process of legitimization. The restaurants and clubs are already legal. The construction company just needs some paperwork restructuring. The import/export business," he paused. "That one will be harder. But I'm committed to making it happen." Emma studied his face, looking for signs of resentment or insincerity. But all she saw was determination. "What about your uncle?" she asked. "Vittorio won't just let you walk away from the family business." Dante's expression darkened. "Vittorio doesn't get a vote. This is my organization, my decision. He's still the underboss. He still commands loyalty from half your men. If you try to dismantle what your grandfather and father built, he'll see it as betrayal." "Then he'll have to live with being disappointed," Dante said coldly. "Because I'm not losing you again, Emma. I'm not losing our daughter before I even get a chance to know her. If that means Vittorio and I have a problem, so be it." The certainty in his voice should have been reassuring. Instead, it terrified Emma. Because she knew Vittorio Castellano had seen the cold calculation in his eyes, the ruthless pragmatism that made him Dante's most valuable and most dangerous lieutenant. Vittorio wouldn't accept being sidelined quietly, and men like him didn't respond well to being told their empire was being dismantled for the sake of a woman and a baby. "Be careful," Emma urged. Your uncle is— I know what he is, Dante interrupted. I've known for years. But he's family, and he's been loyal. I'll handle him. Emma wanted to press the issue, but exhaustion was pulling at her again. The pregnancy made her tired constantly, and the emotional weight of the day was overwhelming. Dante seemed to notice her flagging energy. He stood, moving toward the door. Get some rest. If you need anything at all, I'm just down the hall. My room or my office. You're not sleeping here? Emma asked before she could stop herself. Something raw and hungry flashed across Dante's face before he controlled it. Not unless you want me to. I meant what I said, Emma. I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. If that means keeping my distance, giving you space, I can do that. Even if it kills me to be this close to you and not— He broke off, jaw clenched. Just rest. We'll talk more tomorrow. He was gone before Emma could respond, the door clicking softly shut behind him. She lay back against the pillows, one hand on her belly, staring at the ceiling and wondering what she'd just agreed to. 4 weeks. She'd promised him 4 weeks to prove he could change, could build a different life. But even as she tried to convince herself it was possible, Emma couldn't shake the bone-deep certainty that some men were too dangerous to change, and some worlds too dark to escape. The baby kicked again, stronger this time, and Emma closed her eyes. Please let me be wrong, she whispered into the gathering darkness. Please let him be the exception. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of fresh coffee drifting through the penthouse. For a disoriented moment, she forgot where she was. Then the baby shifted, her belly contracted slightly, and everything came rushing back. Dante. The divorce papers. The penthouse. 4 weeks. She sat up slowly, her body protesting the movement. 8 months pregnant meant every action required strategic planning. Rolling out of bed was a 3-step process involving momentum, leverage, and occasionally some undignified grunting. A soft knock interrupted her struggle. Emma? Dr. Winters is here. Emma glanced at the clock. 9:30. She'd slept nearly 14 hours. Give me 10 minutes, she called out. She made her way to the bathroom, catching sight of herself in the mirror and wincing. Her hair was a tangled mess, her face pale and drawn. The dress she'd worn yesterday was wrinkled from sleeping in it. She looked exactly like what she was, a woman who'd been running for 2 years and was utterly exhausted. A quick shower helped. Emma found one of her old robes hanging in the closet, soft terry cloth that she'd forgotten she owned, and wrapped herself in it gratefully. Her clothes from before the pregnancy wouldn't fit now anyway. When she emerged into the living room, she found Dante standing with a petite woman in her 50s carrying a medical bag. Dr. Sarah Winters had kind eyes and an air of competent authority that immediately put Emma at ease. Ms. Carter, the doctor extended her hand warmly. I'm so glad to finally meet you. Dante has told me you've been managing your pregnancy with limited medical care. I'm here to make sure everything is progressing well. Thank you for coming, Emma said, shaking her hand. I'll give you privacy, Dante said, already moving toward his office. Actually, Dr. Winters interjected, if Emma doesn't mind, I think it would be beneficial for you to be present, Dante. There's quite a bit of information to cover, and as the father, you should be aware of what's happening. Emma wanted to protest, but the doctor's logic was sound. If Dante was serious about being involved, he needed to understand what the next few weeks would entail. I don't mind, she said quietly. Dr. Winters set up her equipment in the master bedroom, and for the next hour, Emma underwent the most thorough examination she'd had since discovering her pregnancy. Blood pressure, weight, urine sample, blood draw. The doctor asked detailed questions about Emma's medical history, her pregnancy symptoms, her diet, and living conditions over the past 8 months. Emma answered honestly, watching Dante's face grow increasingly tight as he learned exactly how rough her circumstances had been. The weeks she'd skipped meals to save money, the studio apartment with unreliable heat, the physically demanding waitressing jobs she'd worked until her belly made it impossible to hide her condition. Your blood pressure is elevated, Dr. Winters said, her tone carefully neutral. Not dangerously so, but concerning. Combined with the protein in your urine sample, I'm going to want to monitor you closely for preeclampsia. What's that? Dante asked sharply. A condition that can develop in pregnancy, the doctor explained. It involves high blood pressure, and can lead to serious complications if not managed. The good news is that Emma's levels aren't severe, and with proper rest, nutrition, and monitoring, we can likely keep it under control. And if it gets worse, Dante pressed. Dr. Winters met his eyes steadily. Then we'd need to deliver the baby early. But let's not borrow trouble. Emma, I want you on modified bed rest. That means no strenuous activity, plenty of sleep, and minimal stress. Emma nearly laughed at that last one. Minimal stress. Sure, no problem. She was just living with her estranged mafia boss husband while carrying his secret baby and trying to decide if he could actually change his entire life. Nothing stressful about that. I'll make sure she rests, Dante said firmly. Dr. Winters pulled out a portable ultrasound machine. Now, let's take a look at this baby and see how she's doing. Emma lay back, lifting her robe to expose her belly. The doctor squirted cold gel on her skin, then pressed the transducer against her abdomen. The room filled with the rapid whooshing sound of a heartbeat. Emma watched Dante's face transform. His eyes widened, his mouth opened slightly, and for a moment he looked utterly vulnerable. Young, almost boyish in his wonder. "That's her?" he whispered. "That's her heartbeat," Dr. Winters confirmed, moving the transducer to get different angles. Strong and steady, about 145 beats per minute. Very healthy. The image on the screen resolved into recognizable shapes. A head, a spine, tiny hands. The baby was active, moving and shifting in the confined space. "She's big," the doctor observed, "measuring right on track for 32 weeks. Good amniotic fluid levels, placenta looks healthy. Everything appears normal." Dante couldn't take his eyes off the screen. His hand found Emma's, gripping it tightly. She wanted to pull away, to maintain the distance she'd worked so hard to create, but the moment felt too significant, too raw. This was his daughter too. He had a right to this wonder, this fear, this overwhelming love that was surely crashing over him the way it had crashed over Emma the first time she'd seen her baby on an ultrasound screen. "Would you like to know the measurements?" Dr. Winters asked. "Weight estimate length?" "Yes," they said simultaneously. "She's approximately 4 pounds, 3 ounces, about 17 inches long. If she continues on this trajectory, she'll be a healthy size at birth." Dr. Winters printed several ultrasound images and handed them to Dante. He stared at them like they were religious artifacts, his thumb tracing the outline of the baby's profile. "I'll want to see you weekly from now on," the doctor said as she packed up her equipment. "More often if your blood pressure doesn't stabilize. I'm writing prescriptions for prenatal vitamins. The good ones, not the over-the-counter variety. And I want you taking them religiously. Also, you need to gain weight, Emma. You're underweight for this stage of pregnancy." "I'll make sure she eats," Dante promised. After Dr. Winters left with instructions to call immediately if Emma experienced headaches, vision changes, or abdominal pain, Emma found herself alone with Dante in the vast living room. "You should have told me," he said quietly, still staring at the ultrasound images, "about the preeclampsia risk, the weight issues. You could have—" He broke off, jaw clenched. "You could have died, Emma. Both of you could have died while you were out there alone." "But we didn't," Emma pointed out. "We survived." "Barely." He finally looked up at her, and the anguish in his eyes was devastating. "You were skipping meals, living in a place with no heat, working yourself to exhaustion, all because you were too afraid to come to me for help." "I was afraid of what coming to you would mean," Emma corrected. "There's a difference." Before Dante could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and something dark crossed his face. "I have to take this. It's about the meeting I mentioned yesterday. Restructuring the business operations." "Go ahead," Emma said. She watched him walk to his office, phone already at his ear, his voice dropping to the low, commanding tone he used for business. This was the Dante she remembered, the one who ran an empire with ruthless efficiency, who made decisions that affected hundreds of lives, who wielded power like other men wielded tools. Could that man really transform into someone who lived quietly, legitimately? Could a king abdicate his throne and be content as a commoner? Emma didn't know, but as she settled onto the couch with a magazine, one hand absently rubbing her belly, she found herself hoping it was possible. The morning passed quietly. Mrs. Chen appeared around 11, her face lighting up when she saw Emma. Miss Emma! The older woman rushed over, then stopped short, her eyes dropping to Emma's belly. Oh, oh my goodness, you're pregnant, Emma finished with a small smile. Surprise. Mrs. Chen's eyes filled with tears. Mr. Dante didn't say. I've been so worried about you, wondering where you went, if you were safe. And now you're back, and there's a baby. She pressed her hands to her cheeks, overcome. I'm sorry I left without saying goodbye, Emma said softly. I didn't want to, but you had your reasons, Mrs. Chen finished knowingly. I may be just the housekeeper, but I'm not blind, Miss Emma. I know what kind of business Mr. Dante is in. I know what kind of dangers come with it. You were protecting yourself, protecting the baby. The understanding in her voice made Emma's throat tight. Thank you. Well, you're back now, and you look too thin. Sit. I'll make you lunch. Something nutritious for the baby. Mrs. Chen bustled toward the kitchen with the determination of a woman on a mission, and despite everything, Emma smiled. Some things never changed. Lunch was a feast. Grilled salmon, roasted vegetables, fresh bread, and a salad with ingredients Emma couldn't even name, but that tasted incredible. She ate until she was uncomfortably full, then ate a little more because Mrs. Chen was watching with such hopeful eyes. Better, the housekeeper pronounced. Now rest. Doctor's orders. Emma returned to the bedroom, intending to read, but exhaustion pulled her under within minutes. She woke hours later to find Dante sitting in the chair by the window, watching her sleep. That's not creepy at all, she murmured, still groggy. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. Sorry, I can't quite believe you're really here, that this is real. Emma pushed herself into a sitting position. How did your meeting go? The smile vanished. About as well as expected. I'm meeting resistance from some of the older members of the organization. They don't understand why we need to change, why we need to legitimize. Did you tell them about the baby? No. Dante stood, pacing to the window. I wanted to talk to you first. Ask if you're comfortable with people knowing. Emma considered. Once word got out that Dante Castellano's missing wife had returned and was pregnant, it would spread through the criminal underworld like wildfire. Every enemy, every rival, every opportunist would know about their daughter. It's going to come out eventually, she said. Better to control the narrative than let rumors spread. Dante nodded slowly. I'll make an announcement tomorrow. Family meeting. I'll tell everyone that you're back, that we're expecting a daughter, and that things are going to change around here. Your uncle won't like that. Vittorio doesn't have to like it. Dante's voice was hard. He works for me, not the other way around. Emma wanted to argue, to warn him again about underestimating Vittorio's ambition and cunning, but she was too tired, and her head was starting to ache, one of the warning signs Dr. Winters had mentioned. I need to lie down again, she admitted. Immediately, Dante was at her side. What's wrong? Are you in pain? Should I call the doctor? Just a headache. Probably stress. Emma rubbed her temples. I'll take some Tylenol and rest. But even as she said it, she felt a strange cramping sensation low in her abdomen. Not painful exactly, but wrong. Different from the Braxton Hicks contractions she'd been experiencing for weeks. Emma? Dante's voice sharpened. What is it? I don't know. It feels... Another cramp, stronger this time, made her gasp. Dante was already pulling out his phone. I'm calling Dr. Winters. The next hour was a blur. The doctor arrived within 30 minutes, examining Emma while asking rapid-fire questions about the pain, its frequency, its intensity. Another ultrasound showed the baby was fine, still moving, heartbeat strong, but Emma's blood pressure had spiked dangerously. Hospital, Dr. Winters said firmly. Now, we need to get this under control before it progresses to full eclampsia. No hospitals, Emma protested weakly. Too public, too... I don't care about public, Dante cut in. Your health is more important than secrecy. But Dr. Winters was already shaking her head. Actually, I think we can manage this here if we're aggressive about it. Dante, I'll need some equipment brought in. Emma, you're going on complete bed rest, and I mean complete. No getting up except to use the bathroom. Minimal stress, maximum rest. For how long? Emma asked. Until we deliver the baby. But that could be 8 weeks. Or it could be tomorrow, the doctor interrupted gently. Preeclampsia is unpredictable. If we can't control it with medication and rest, we'll have no choice but to deliver early. The good news is that at 32 weeks, your daughter's chances are excellent. The NICU could handle any complications. NICU, Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. The thought of her tiny baby in an incubator fighting for every breath made Emma's chest constrict. "I'll do whatever you say," she whispered. "Just keep her safe." Dr. Winters squeezed her hand. "We're going to do everything we can. But Emma, you need to understand, stress is a major factor in preeclampsia. Whatever's causing you anxiety, whatever fears you're carrying, you need to find a way to let them go, for your daughter's sake." After the doctor left, promising to return first thing in the morning with medication and monitoring equipment, Emma lay in the darkened bedroom staring at the ceiling. Let go of her fears. Let go of her anxiety. How was she supposed to do that when she was living with a man whose very existence generated both? Dante entered quietly, carrying a tray with soup and crackers. "Mrs. Chen made this. You need to eat something." "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway." He set the tray on the bedside table, then settled into the chair he'd apparently claimed as his own. "Emma, we need to talk about this." "About what?" "About the fact that being here, being around me, is making you sick." Emma closed her eyes. "That's not—" "Don't lie to me, please." His voice was raw. "Dr. Winters said stress is a major factor. And the biggest stress in your life right now is me, my world, the danger I represent." "Dante, I'm going to fix this," he interrupted. "I'm going to prove to you that I can make things safe, that I can build a life where you don't have to be afraid every second of every day." Emma looked at him, at the determination in his eyes, and felt something crack inside her chest. "How?" she whispered. "How are you going to fix something that's been broken for 3 generations? Your grandfather built this empire on blood and fear. Your father expanded it with violence and intimidation. You inherited a legacy of darkness, Dante. You can't just walk away from that." "Watch me." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "I've already started the process. Tomorrow's family meeting. I'm not just announcing the baby. I'm announcing my retirement from active operations. I'm putting Vittorio in charge of day-to-day management while I transition everything to legitimate businesses." Emma's stomach dropped. "You're giving Vittorio control?" "Temporary control," Dante corrected, "with strict guidelines and oversight, and only of the operations we're keeping. Everything illegal. The gambling, the loan sharking, the protection rackets, all of it ends. We sell off those operations or shut them down entirely. Your uncle will never agree to that." "He doesn't have a choice." Dante's voice turned hard. "I still own 51% of every business entity. I still have final say. If Vittorio wants to keep his position, his income, his status, he'll do what I tell him." Emma wanted to believe it could be that simple, but she'd seen the way Vittorio looked at Dante sometimes when his nephew wasn't watching. She'd seen the calculation, the ambition, the barely concealed resentment of a man who believed he deserved the throne but would never inherit it because of an accident of birth. "Promise me you'll be careful," she said quietly. "Your uncle is dangerous, Dante. More dangerous than you want to admit." "I know exactly how dangerous he is," Dante replied. "I've known for years. But he's also smart enough to know that crossing me would be suicide. The men are loyal to me, not him. The connections, the political relationships, the business partnerships, they're all tied to the Castellano name, and I'm the Castellano who matters." He said it with such certainty that Emma almost believed him. Almost. The next morning, Emma woke to find Dante already gone. A note on the nightstand explained he'd gone to the office for the family meeting but would be back by noon. Mrs. Chen had instructions to call him immediately if Emma needed anything. The hours crawled past. Emma tried to read, tried to watch television, tried to do anything that would distract her from the growing sense of dread in her chest. The baby was active today, moving and kicking with enough force to make Emma's breath catch. "Your daddy is about to walk into a den of wolves," she murmured, rubbing her belly, "and I'm terrified of what's going to happen when he tells them he's choosing us over the empire." At 11:30, her phone buzzed. Emma grabbed it eagerly, expecting a message from Dante. Instead, she found a text from an unknown number. "He thinks he can just walk away. He thinks loving you will save him, but some debts can't be forgiven. Some sins can't be washed clean. Tell Dante that his uncle sends his regards." Emma's hands started shaking. She read the message 3 times, her heart hammering against her ribs. Vittorio. It had to be Vittorio. But how had he gotten her number? How did he even know she was back? The baby kicked sharply, as if responding to Emma's fear. She forced herself to take slow, deep breaths. Stress was dangerous. Panic was dangerous. She needed to stay calm, needed to... The phone rang. Dante. Hello? Her voice came out thin, strained. Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Dante's voice was tight, controlled in a way that told her he was barely holding back rage or fear or both. Do not leave the penthouse. Do not open the door for anyone except Mrs. Chen or me. Do not go near the windows. What happened? The meeting didn't go as planned. Vittorio... He broke off, and she heard shouting in the background, male voices raised in anger. I can't talk now. Just promise me you'll stay put and stay safe. Dante, your uncle sent me a text. What? The word came out sharp as a gunshot. What did it say? Emma read him the message, her voice shaking. The silence on the other end was terrifying. Then, quietly, almost gently, I'm coming home. Lock the bedroom door and don't open it until you hear my voice. He hung up before she could respond. Emma sat frozen for a moment, then lurched to her feet. Her head spun with the sudden movement, and she had to grab the nightstand for support. But fear overrode her dizziness. She made it to the bedroom door and turned the lock just as she heard the penthouse's front door open. Footsteps in the hallway, multiple sets. Emma? Dante's voice, tight with tension. It's me. You can open the door. She turned the lock with trembling hands. Dante strode in, followed by 2 men she recognized. Marco's younger brother Luca and Antonio, one of Dante's most trusted soldiers. What's going on? Emma demanded. Vittorio made a play, Dante said tersely. During the meeting, he tried to turn the family against me, said I was weak, that I was abandoning the legacy for a woman and a bastard child. Emma flinched at the word, but Dante was already continuing. Most of the men stayed loyal, but about a third of them, the ones closest to Vittorio, they sided with him. He's declared himself the new head of the family. That's insane, Emma breathed. He can't, Dante agreed. But he's trying anyway, which means until this is resolved, you're in danger, real danger. Vittorio knows the fastest way to hurt me is through you and the baby. Luca spoke up, his young face hard with determination. We've got men posted outside the building, boss. Nobody gets up here without going through us. Not good enough, Dante said. Emma needs to be somewhere Vittorio can't reach her, somewhere he doesn't know about. The lake house? Antonio suggested. Too obvious. He knows about that property. Dante paced, his mind clearly racing through options. Then his face cleared. The ranch. Montana. The one I bought last year through that shell corporation. Emma's head was spinning. What ranch? What are you talking about? Dante turned to her and she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before, genuine fear. Not for himself, but for her. For their daughter. I bought a property 6 months ago, he explained. 2,000 acres in Montana, near the Canadian border. I paid cash through a series of shell companies that can't be traced back to me. It was supposed to be a retreat, somewhere to disappear if things ever got too hot in Chicago. Vittorio doesn't know about it. Almost nobody does. You want to send me away? Emma's voice was hollow. I want to keep you alive, Dante corrected fiercely. You and our daughter. Vittorio is unpredictable right now. Desperate. Desperate men do desperate things. I need to know you're safe while I handle this. And how exactly are you going to handle it? Emma demanded. What does handling it mean in your world, Dante? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. You're going to kill him, Emma whispered. Your own uncle. You're going to kill him. I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect my family, Dante said quietly. Even if that means making choices I wish I didn't have to make. The baby kicked hard, and Emma gasped, her hand flying to her belly. Immediately, Dante was at her side. What's wrong? Is it the baby? Should I call Dr. Winters? I'm fine, Emma managed. She's just active today. But she wasn't fine. Nothing about this situation was fine. She'd fled Dante's world to protect her daughter from exactly this kind of violence, this kind of danger. And now, less than 48 hours after returning, She was right back in the middle of it. I should never have come back, she said dully. I should have just stayed gone. Don't say that. Dante cupped her face in his hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. Don't even think it. Yes, this is bad. Yes, it's dangerous, but we'll get through it. I'll get us through it. By killing your uncle and starting a war within your own organization? By eliminating a threat to my family, Dante corrected. Vittorio made his choice when he sent you that text. When he called our daughter a bastard in front of 24 men. When he decided his ambition was more important than loyalty. Emma wanted to argue, but another wave of dizziness washed over her. The stress, the fear, the adrenaline, all of it was too much. I need to sit down, she whispered. Dante guided her to the bed, then turned to his men. I want this place locked down tight. Nobody in or out without my explicit permission. Get Marco's guys on the perimeter. They owe me after what happened to their brother. And find out where Vittorio is right now. I want eyes on him 24/7. Luca and Antonio nodded and left, speaking urgently into their phones. Dante sat beside Emma, his hand finding hers. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I never wanted this. Never wanted you caught in the middle of family politics and power plays. Then why did you ask me to stay? Emma's voice broke. Why didn't you just let me go when I showed up to sign those papers? Because I love you, Dante said simply. Because even knowing all the danger, all the complications, all the reasons why we shouldn't be together, I still can't imagine my life without you in it. And now that I know about our daughter, he pressed his free hand gently to her belly. I can't let you go. I won't. Not without a fight. Emma closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. This isn't the life I want for her, Dante. This fear, this violence, this constant looking over our shoulders. It won't always be like this, he promised. Once Vittorio is dealt with, once the organization is restructured, things will be different, better, safer. You keep saying that, but how many people have to die before we get to better? How much blood has to be spilled before we reach safer? Dante was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, he finally admitted. But I do know that I'd rather fight to build something better than give up and accept that this is all we can have. The baby moved again, a rolling sensation under Emma's ribs. And despite everything, the fear, the danger, the impossible situation, she found herself placing her hand over Dante's where it rested on her belly. 4 weeks, she reminded him. You promised me 4 weeks to prove things could change. But if your uncle is staging a coup, if there's going to be a war, then I'll end it quickly, Dante interrupted. Before those 4 weeks are up. Before our daughter is born. I'll handle Vittorio, I'll secure the organization, and I'll give you the proof you need that I can build a different life. Our life, the three of us. Emma wanted to believe him. Desperately wanted to believe that love could conquer violence, that family could overcome legacy, that the man beside her could truly transform from a mafia boss into just a father and husband. But as she sat there in the gathering darkness, feeling her daughter move inside her while Dante made quiet phone calls coordinating his response to his uncle's betrayal, Emma couldn't shake the terrible certainty that some transformations required more than just wanting them. Some transformations required sacrifice. And she was terrified of what, or who, would have to be sacrificed before this story reached its end. The war started quietly, as wars in their world always did. Not with explosions or gunfire, but with phone calls, shifting allegiances, and men choosing sides in hushed conversations over expensive whiskey. Emma watched it unfold from the prison of her bedroom, confined to bed rest, while Dante's empire fractured around them. 3 days after Vittorio's betrayal, Emma woke to find Dante sitting in his usual chair staring out at the pre-dawn Chicago skyline. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, which, she suspected, he hadn't. You should rest, she said softly. He turned to her and the exhaustion in his eyes was devastating. Can't. Too much to coordinate. Dante. 6 of my clubs were hit last night, he interrupted, his voice flat. Vittorio's men. Nothing violent, just vandalism. Broken windows, spray paint, intimidation tactics. But the message was clear. He's not backing down. Emma's hand went to her belly, where the baby was already awake and moving. What are you going to do? What I have to. Dante stood, walking to the bed. He sat on the edge, careful not to jostle her. I'm meeting with the Morettis today. They've stayed neutral so far, but their support would tip the balance decisively in my favor. The Morettis. Emma knew that name. One of the other powerful families in Chicago, rivals turned uneasy allies through decades of territorial negotiations and mutual profit. And if they side with your uncle instead? Dante's jaw tightened. Then things get significantly more complicated. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed. She reached for it automatically, then froze when she saw another message from the unknown number. Your daughter will be born into a world of ashes. Dante can't protect you. He can't even protect himself. Emma's hand started shaking. Dante noticed immediately, taking the phone from her and reading the message. Something dark and terrible crossed his face. That's it, he said quietly. That's the line he doesn't get to cross. Dante, what are you... But he was already on his feet, pulling out his own phone and making a call. Luca, I need you to trace a number. Now. I don't care what it takes. Use every resource we have. I want to know exactly where those texts are coming from. He paced while he talked, his controlled fury filling the room like a living thing. Emma watched him, her heart hammering, the baby kicking in response to her elevated stress. When Dante finally hung up, he turned to her with an expression she'd never seen before, cold determination mixed with protective rage. I'm ending this today, he said. No more waiting, no more trying to negotiate. Vittorio threatened you and our daughter directly. That means he's made his choice, and now I'm making mine. What does that mean? Emma asked, though part of her already knew the answer. It means I'm calling a tribunal, Dante said. Old school. The heads of the 5 families, neutral arbitrators, witnessing and judgment. Vittorio challenged my authority, threatened my family. Under the old codes, that's grounds for execution. Emma's blood ran cold. You're going to have him killed. I'm going to give him a choice, Dante corrected. Submit to tribunal judgment and accept exile, or refuse and face the consequences. Either way, the threat ends today. And if he refuses? If he fights? Dante met her eyes steadily. Then I'll do what has to be done to protect you and our daughter, even if it destroys me in the process. The weight of that statement hung between them. Emma knew what he was really saying. Killing Vittorio, his own uncle, his father's brother, would cost Dante something essential, would crack the foundation of who he was, but he was willing to pay that price for them. I don't want you to become a monster because of me, Emma whispered. I was already a monster, Emma. You just helped me remember I could be something more. Dante leaned down, pressing his forehead to hers. But if choosing between being a good man and protecting my family means getting blood on my hands, I'll wash them later and live with the stains. Before Emma could respond, Dr. Winters arrived for her morning check. Dante stepped out to make more calls while the doctor examined Emma, took her vitals, and frowned at the blood pressure reading. Still elevated, Dr. Winters said quietly. Emma, I need you to be honest with me. What's causing you this much stress? Emma almost laughed. Where to even begin? Her estranged husband's uncle staging a coup? The death threats? The war brewing in Chicago's underworld while she lay helpless in bed carrying the baby everyone seemed to want to use as leverage? Family drama, she said instead. Dr. Winters gave her a knowing look. The kind of family drama that involves men with guns standing guard outside your door. So the doctor had noticed the security. Of course she had. Something like that, Emma admitted. Then I'm going to be blunt, Dr. Winters said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Your blood pressure is climbing toward dangerous levels. If it continues, we'll have no choice but to deliver the baby. At 33 weeks, she'd likely be fine, but she'd still need time in the NICU, possibly several weeks. Is that what you want? Of course not. Then you need to find a way to manage this stress. I don't care if you meditate, do breathing exercises, listen to music, whatever works. But you cannot continue at this level of anxiety. Your body can't handle it, and neither can your baby. After the doctor left with stern instructions and a prescription for blood pressure medication, Emma lay alone in the vast bedroom, feeling utterly helpless. Her daughter's life depended on her staying calm, but how was she supposed to stay calm when the world was falling apart around her? Mrs. Chen appeared with lunch, another elaborate meal designed to help Emma gain weight, and gentle conversation that carefully avoided mentioning anything stressful. But even the housekeeper's kindness couldn't fully distract Emma from the reality of her situation. She was trapped in this bed, in this penthouse, in this life she'd spent 2 years running from. And now her daughter's health, maybe even her life, hung in the balance while men fought over power and territory and pride. Dante returned in the early afternoon, his face grim. The Morettis agreed to neutral arbitration, he said without preamble. The tribunal is set for tonight. Vittorio has been formally summoned. If he doesn't show, it's an automatic admission of guilt and justification for whatever action I take. And if he does show, then we let the 5 families decide. Present the evidence of his threats, his attempted coup, his violations of the codes we all agreed to follow. They'll render judgment. What kind of judgment? Emma pressed. Dante was quiet for a moment. Exile at minimum, execution at maximum. It depends on how the families see it, whether they consider his actions a personal betrayal or a threat to the entire system we've built. Emma closed her eyes, fighting back tears. How did we get here, Dante? How did everything spiral so fast? Because I was a coward, Dante said bluntly. He sat beside her, taking her hand. For years, I knew Vittorio was dangerous. Knew he resented me, wanted my position. But he was family, and he was useful, so I ignored the warning signs. I told myself loyalty meant protecting him even when he didn't deserve protection. And now we're all paying the price for my weakness. Loyalty isn't weakness. Misplaced loyalty is, Dante interrupted. Real loyalty is protecting the people who deserve protection. You, our daughter, the men who've stood by me, not the ones who smiled to my face while plotting my downfall. His phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it, and something shifted in his expression. Luca traced the messages, he said quietly. They're coming from one of Vittorio's burner phones, which means he's been personally threatening you, not just ordering someone else to do it. The rage in Dante's voice was barely controlled. Emma squeezed his hand, trying to ground him. What time is the tribunal? She asked. 8 tonight. Neutral ground, the Moretti estate. All 5 family heads will be there, plus their consiglieres. It'll be formal, following the old protocols. I want to be there, Emma said suddenly. Dante's head snapped toward her. Absolutely not. You heard Dr. Winters. You need to stay in bed. Stay calm. How am I supposed to stay calm sitting here alone while you're potentially walking into a trap? Emma demanded. At least if I'm there, I can see what's happening. You can put yourself and our daughter at risk, Dante interrupted firmly. Emma, I know you feel helpless. I understand that. But the best thing you can do right now is stay here, stay safe, and let me handle this. Like you handled the family meeting that turned into a coup? The words came out sharper than Emma intended, and she saw Dante flinch. But before she could apologize, he stood abruptly. You're right, he said quietly. I've made mistakes, serious ones, but I'm trying to fix them now. I'm trying to build something better, something safer for our daughter. And I can't do that if I'm worried about protecting you in a room full of dangerous men who might see you as leverage. He walked to the door, then paused. The tribunal will be over by midnight. I'll call you as soon as I can. Just, please, Emma, please stay here and rest. For our baby's sake, if not for mine. Then he was gone, leaving Emma alone with her fear and her helplessness, and the daughter moving restlessly inside her. The hours crawled past with agonizing slowness. Mrs. Chen brought dinner, but Emma could barely eat. She tried to read, to watch television, to do anything that would distract her from imagining every possible way the tribunal could go wrong. At 7:30, her phone rang. Not Dante, Luca. Mrs. Castellano, the young man's voice was tight. I thought you should know. We just got word that Vittorio isn't coming alone to the tribunal. He's bringing muscle, a lot of it. Emma's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means he's not planning to submit to judgment peacefully. He's preparing for a fight. Does Dante know? I'm about to tell him now. But I wanted you to know first in case... Luca broke off. In case things don't go the way we hope. After he hung up, Emma lay in the darkness, one hand on her belly, and felt the baby's strong, steady movements. Her daughter. Dante's daughter. A child who hadn't asked to be born into this world of violence and betrayal. The baby kicked hard right against Emma's ribs, and suddenly Emma was crying, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. She'd tried so hard to protect her daughter, had run, had hidden, had sacrificed everything to keep her safe. And now, despite all of it, they were right back in the middle of the danger she'd feared most. "I'm sorry," she whispered to her belly. "I'm so sorry, baby girl. I tried. I really tried." The baby moved again, a rolling sensation that felt almost like comfort, like her daughter was trying to tell her something, maybe that it would be okay, maybe that they were stronger than Emma believed. Or maybe Emma was just a desperate woman looking for hope in the movements of an unborn child who couldn't possibly understand the danger surrounding them both. At 9 o'clock, Emma's phone buzzed with a text from Dante. "Tribunal has begun. Vittorio showed with 20 men. Things are tense but controlled. I love you, both of you." Emma stared at those last words. He'd never said it so directly before. Not in a text, not in such simple terms. It felt like a goodbye, like he was preparing for the possibility he might not come home. She typed back quickly, "Be careful. Come home to us." The response was immediate. "I will. I promise." But Emma had learned that promises made in their world were fragile things, easily shattered by bullets or betrayal or bad luck. She must have dozed off because she woke suddenly to the sound of her phone ringing. The clock read 11:47 p.m. Unknown number. Emma's hand shook as she answered. "Hello?" Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a voice she recognized, Vittorio's, rough and angry. "You think you've won," he spat. "You think your precious Dante is going to ride in and save the day, make everything legitimate and clean. But you don't understand how this works, girl. Some stains don't wash out. Some sins can't be forgiven." "Where's Dante?" Emma demanded, her heart hammering. Vittorio laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Oh, he's alive. For now." The tribunal went his way. The families sided with their golden boy just like they always do. "They've sentenced me to exile. Permanent exile. Stripped of my position, my territory, my authority. All because I had the audacity to tell the truth, that Dante Castellano is weak. That he's choosing a woman over his legacy. That he's betraying everything his father and grandfather built." "You threatened my daughter," Emma said, her voice steady despite her fear. "You made this personal." "Everything is personal in this life," Vittorio shot back. "And here's the thing, Emma. Exile doesn't mean I stop caring, doesn't mean I stop watching. Your daughter will be born into a world that knows her father destroyed his own family for her. That kind of weakness, it paints a target on your backs that will never go away. Are you threatening us again?" "I'm promising you the truth," Vittorio said coldly. "Dante might have won tonight. The families might have sided with him. But this isn't over. Not by a long shot. He's made enemies, Emma, powerful ones. And when they come for him, and they will come, your daughter will pay the price for his choices." The line went dead. Emma sat frozen, Vittorio's words echoing in her mind. Then another contraction hit, stronger than before, painful enough to make her gasp. She pressed her hand to her belly, trying to breathe through it. Not now. Not yet. The baby was only 33 weeks, too early, too small, but her body didn't seem to care about timing. Another contraction followed the first, then another. Emma reached for her phone with shaking hands and called Dante. "Emma?" His voice was rough, strained. "What's wrong?" "Contractions," she managed. "Real ones. Dante, I think the baby's coming. I'm on my way. Don't move. I'm calling Dr. Winters, and I'm coming now." Emma could hear him shouting orders in the background, doors slamming, an engine roaring to life. Then he was back on the line. "Talk to me, Emma. How far apart are the contractions?" "I don't know, maybe 5 minutes?" "Dante, your uncle called—" "What?" "He called me. After the tribunal. He said—" Another contraction cut off her words, this one strong enough to make her cry out. "God damn it!" Dante's voice was pure fury. "That bastard! I swear to you, Emma, I will—" "Just get here," Emma interrupted. "Please, I'm scared." "I know, baby. I know. I'm 10 minutes away. Doctor, Winters is already on her way. You're going to be fine. Our daughter is going to be fine. Just breathe, okay? Just keep breathing." Emma tried to follow his instructions, tried to stay calm, but the contractions were getting stronger, closer together. And beneath the physical pain was the terrible fear that Vittorio was right, that no matter what Dante did, no matter how hard he tried to change, their daughter would never truly be safe. Mrs. Chen rushed in, her face pale. "Miss Emma, I heard. What can I do?" "Help me up," Emma gasped. "I need to move. I can't just lie here." The housekeeper helped her to her feet, supporting her as Emma paced the room, trying to manage the pain. Each contraction felt like her body was trying to tear itself apart. Too early. The baby was coming too early. Dante burst through the door 8 minutes later, his suit rumpled, his face showing the strain of the night. He took one look at Emma and crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into his arms. "I've got you," he murmured against her hair. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Dr. Winters arrived minutes later, her calm efficiency a stark contrast to the controlled chaos of the penthouse. She examined Emma quickly, her expression growing serious. "You're dilating," she said quietly. "Not quickly, but steadily. Emma, I need to ask, do you want to try to stop the labor or let it progress?" "Is the baby okay?" Emma asked. "Her heart rate is strong, but at 33 weeks, there's still risk. We could try medication to halt the contractions, give her a few more weeks to develop. Or we could prepare for delivery and have a NICU team standing by." Emma looked at Dante, saw her own fear reflected in his eyes. "What do you think?" she whispered. "I think—" Dante's voice caught. He cleared his throat, trying again. "I think we do whatever is safest for both of you, not just the baby. You too, Emma. Your health matters." Dr. Winters spoke up. "Given Emma's elevated blood pressure and the stress of her situation, I actually think proceeding with delivery might be safer than trying to stop it. The contractions themselves are putting additional strain on her system. And the baby, she's big for 33 weeks. Good size, good strong heartbeat. I think she'd do well." "Then that's what we do," Dante said firmly. He looked at Emma. "If you agree." Emma felt another contraction building and nodded through the pain. "Let's meet our daughter." What followed was a blur of activity. Dr. Winters made calls, arranging for a full medical team to come to the penthouse, an obstetrician, a pediatrician, nurses, NICU equipment just in case. Dante had apparently planned for this possibility, had equipment and supplies already staged. "How long have you been preparing for a home delivery?" Emma asked between contractions. "Since Dr. Winters said hospital might not be safe," Dante admitted. "I've had a full surgical suite ready in the guest wing for 2 weeks, just in case." Of course he had, because Dante Castellano planned for every contingency, controlled every variable he could. The contractions intensified as midnight passed into early morning. Emma labored through them with Dante at her side, his hand gripping hers, his voice talking her through each wave of pain. "You're doing so well," he murmured, "so strong. Our daughter is going to be just like you, fierce and beautiful and unstoppable." "She's going to be early and small, and we don't even have a nursery ready," Emma gasped. "We'll figure it out," Dante promised. "We'll figure all of it out together." At 3 in the morning, Dr. Winters announced that Emma was fully dilated. The makeshift delivery room, the master bedroom transformed with medical equipment and monitoring devices, was ready. "When the next contraction comes, I need you to push," Dr. Winters instructed. Emma bore down, Dante supporting her back, his presence a solid anchor in the storm of pain and fear and anticipation. "Push, breathe. Push again." "I can see her head," Dr. Winters said, excitement creeping into her professional tone. "She's got dark hair. Emma, one more big push." Emma gathered every ounce of strength she had left and pushed with everything in her. She felt the baby slip free, heard the sudden silence that seemed to stretch forever. Then a cry. Thin and reedy but strong, alive. "It's a girl," Dr. Winters announced unnecessarily, lifting the tiny, squalling infant. "Born at 3:17 a.m., 5 pounds, 2 ounces. The pediatrician took the baby, working quickly to suction her airways and assess her condition. Emma watched through exhausted tears as they cleaned her daughter, swaddled her in a soft blanket. "She's breathing well on her own," the pediatrician reported. "Lungs sound good, heart rate strong. For 33 weeks, she's doing remarkably well. We'll want to monitor her closely, but I don't think she'll need the NICU." Then the baby was in Emma's arms, and nothing else mattered. Not the pain, not the fear, not the danger still lurking outside. Just this tiny, perfect person with a scrunched up face and miniature fingers that gripped Emma's thumb with surprising strength. "She's beautiful," Dante breathed, his voice thick with wonder. He traced a finger along the baby's cheek, and Emma saw tears streaming down his face. "She's so beautiful, Emma. You made this. You kept her safe all this time." "We made her," Emma corrected softly, "and now we have to keep her safe together." Dante leaned in, pressing his forehead to Emma's, careful not to jostle the baby between them. "I swear to you," he whispered, "I will spend the rest of my life making sure she never has to be afraid. That you never have to be afraid. Whatever it takes, Emma. Whatever I have to give up or change or sacrifice, I'll do it." Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that love and determination could overcome legacy and violence. But as she looked down at her daughter's tiny face, felt the fragile weight of her in trembling arms, she was more terrified than ever. Because now the danger wasn't theoretical. Now there was a real, living person who could be hurt, a daughter with Dante's dark hair and a future written in uncertainty. "What should we name her?" Dante asked softly. Emma had thought about this during her months in hiding, cycling through dozens of options. But now, holding her daughter in the aftermath of violence and tribunal and her uncle's threats, only one name felt right. "Sophia," she said. "It means wisdom. I want her to be wiser than we've been. I want her to make better choices." Sophia Castellano. Dante tested the name, smiling through his tears. "It's perfect. She's perfect." The medical team worked around them, monitoring vitals and cleaning up. Dr. Winters examined Emma, checking for complications, pronouncing her remarkably healthy considering the circumstances. As dawn broke over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Emma lay in the massive bed with her newborn daughter on her chest, and Dante curled protectively around them both. For this one perfect moment, they were just a family, just parents with their newborn child, exhausted and overwhelmed and utterly in love. But Emma couldn't forget what waited outside this room. Vittorio in exile, but still dangerous. A fractured organization trying to rebuild. Enemies who saw Sophia not as a miracle, but as leverage. A world that wouldn't simply allow them to walk away and live in peace. Dante had won the tribunal, had secured his position and eliminated the immediate threat. But at what cost? And for how long? Sophia made a small noise, her tiny mouth rooting against Emma's chest. The nurse helped Emma position the baby for her first feeding, and Emma marveled at the strength of her daughter's instincts. So small, so fragile, but already fighting to survive. "She's a warrior," Dante murmured, watching, "just like her mother." "I'm not a warrior," Emma said tiredly. "I'm just a woman trying to protect her child." "That's what makes you a warrior," Dante replied. He kissed Emma's temple, then Sophia's tiny head. "And I promise you both, I will be worthy of you. I'll build the life you deserve, the life Sophia deserves." Emma wanted to ask how, wanted to demand details and timelines and concrete plans. But exhaustion was pulling her under, and her body ached, and her daughter was finally in her arms after months of carrying her alone. So she just nodded, closing her eyes, and let herself believe for this one moment that maybe, just maybe, love could be enough to save them all. The first week of Sophia's life passed in a haze of sleepless nights and fierce protective love. Emma had never known it was possible to feel so much for another person, this tiny being who demanded everything and gave back only the occasional peaceful moment between feedings and diaper changes. But every time Sophia opened her dark eyes and looked at Emma with that unfocused newborn gaze, every time her miniature fingers wrapped around Emma's thumb, the exhaustion seemed worth it. Dante was a revelation as a father. Emma had expected him to hire nurses, to delegate the messy realities of infant care to staff while he returned to running his empire. Instead, he was the one who walked the halls at 2 a.m. when Sophia wouldn't settle, the one who learned to change diapers with surprising efficiency, the one who sat beside Emma during marathon feeding sessions, and talked about their daughter's future with such hope it made Emma's chest ache. But the outside world didn't pause for their joy. On Sophia's 5th day of life, reality came crashing back, in the form of Luca appearing at the penthouse with news that made Dante's face go carefully blank. There's been an incident, the young man said quietly, glancing at Emma and the baby before continuing. 3 of Vittorio's loyalists were found dead this morning. Professional hits, clean, the kind that sends a message. Emma felt ice flood her veins. She pulled Sofia closer, the baby sleeping peacefully against her chest, completely unaware of the violence swirling around her existence. Who ordered it? Dante asked, his voice deadly calm. That's the thing, boss. Nobody knows. It wasn't us. The Morettis deny involvement. So do the other families. Whoever did this is operating independently. Dante was quiet for a long moment, his jaw tight. Vittorio. That's our best guess, Luca confirmed. He's in exile, but he's still got resources, still got connections. This feels like him tying up loose ends, eliminating anyone who might flip and give up information about his operations. Or sending a message that exile doesn't mean powerless, Dante said grimly. He looked at Emma, and she saw the conflict in his eyes, the desire to shield her from this ugliness, warring with the need to be honest about the danger. We need to accelerate our timeline. Timeline for what? Emma asked, though part of her already knew. For leaving, Dante said simply. The Montana property I mentioned, we need to go there sooner rather than later, before Vittorio decides that killing his own men isn't enough, before he remembers that the best way to hurt me is through you and Sofia. Emma looked down at their daughter, so small and vulnerable in her arms. 7 days old, 1 week of life, and already they were talking about running, about hiding, about the constant vigilance that would define their existence. When? She asked quietly. 2 days? 3 at most. Just long enough to get everything arranged. Security for the property, supplies, a doctor willing to relocate temporarily to monitor you and Sofia. You make it sound like we'll be there for months. Dante met her eyes steadily. We might be, however long it takes to ensure Vittorio is no longer a threat. However long it takes to finish restructuring the organization. However long it takes to make sure our daughter can grow up without constantly looking over her shoulder. That night, after Sofia finally fell asleep in the expensive bassinet Dante had ordered, Emma stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows and stared out at the Chicago skyline. She'd loved this city once, before she understood the darkness beneath its glittering surface. Now every light seemed to hide a threat, every shadow a potential danger. Dante came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. What are you thinking? That I spent 2 years running from you, trying to protect our daughter from your world. And now here I am, right back in the middle of it, planning to run again. Only this time with you instead of from you. Is that better or worse? Dante asked quietly. Emma turned in his arms, studying his face. The exhaustion there, the strain of trying to hold together an empire while being a present father, the fear he tried to hide every time he looked at Sofia, the same fear Emma felt constantly, that they wouldn't be enough, wouldn't be fast enough, wouldn't be smart enough to keep their daughter safe. I don't know yet, she admitted. Ask me when this is over. When this is over, Dante repeated, something like hope flickering in his eyes. Does that mean you're thinking about after? About us after? Emma hadn't let herself think that far ahead, had been too focused on immediate survival, but now, with Dante's arms around her and their daughter sleeping peacefully 10 feet away, she found herself imagining it. A life without the constant fear. A home where Sofia could play outside without bodyguards. Ordinary worries like teething and first words instead of bullets and betrayal. I'm trying to, she said softly. Trying to believe there could be an after. Dante pulled her closer, pressing his forehead to hers. There will be. I swear it, Emma. Whatever I have to do, whatever I have to give up, there will be an after for us. The next morning brought Dr. Winters for Sofia's 1-week checkup. The baby had gained weight, was feeding well, showed no signs of the complications that sometimes plague premature infants. She's thriving, the doctor pronounced, smiling as she examined the tiny girl. Strong lungs, good reflexes, excellent muscle tone. You'd never know she was 5 weeks early. She's a fighter, Emma said, watching Sofia track Dr. Winters' finger with her dark eyes. Like her parents, the doctor agreed. Then her expression grew serious. Dante mentioned you might be leaving the city. I've arranged for a colleague in Montana to take over Sofia's care. Dr. James Reeves, excellent pediatrician, very discreet. He's aware of your situation and prepared to make house calls as needed. How much did Dante tell you? Emma asked carefully. Dr. Winters met her eyes steadily. Enough to know that you're in danger. Enough to know that getting away from Chicago is probably the smartest move you could make. I've been Dante's doctor for 5 years, Emma. I've treated gunshot wounds at 3 in the morning and asked no questions. I've seen the world he operates in. If he says you need to disappear for a while, I believe him. After the doctor left, Emma found herself restless despite her exhaustion. She paced the penthouse with Sophia in her arms, the baby awake and alert, taking in the world with that intense focus newborns sometimes had. Your daddy is trying so hard, Emma murmured to her daughter. He's trying to build something better for you. I just hope... She broke off, her throat tight. I just hope it's enough. Sophia made a small noise, her tiny hand reaching up to grasp Emma's finger. Such a simple gesture, but it felt like a promise, like her daughter was telling her to have faith. The next afternoon, Dante gathered Emma, Luca, and Antonio in his office for a final briefing before the move to Montana. The property is a working ranch, Dante explained, pulling up photos on his computer. 2,000 acres, main house, guest cottage, stables, the works. It's isolated. Nearest town is 40 minutes away, but it's got everything we need. Solar panels, well water, satellite internet. We could survive there indefinitely if we had to. Emma studied the images. The main house was beautiful. Rustic but clearly expensive, with timber beams and stone fireplaces and windows that overlooked endless mountains and sky. So different from the urban luxury of the penthouse. So far from the life she'd known with Dante. Who else knows about this place? She asked. Just the 4 of us and Dr. Winters, Dante said. I bought it through 3 different shell corporations, paid cash, used a lawyer in Seattle who has no idea who the actual owner is. On paper, it belongs to a real estate investment trust based in Delaware. There's no trail leading back to me. What about staff? Antonio asked. Security? You can't run a ranch that size alone. There's a caretaker couple, the Hendersons. They've been managing the property for the previous owner and agreed to stay on. They think they're working for a tech millionaire who wants privacy. They don't know my real name, don't know anything about Chicago. As for security, that's you and Luca. Just the 2 of you. More men would attract attention in a place like that. Emma watched Dante lay out his plan with the same strategic precision he'd once used to expand his criminal empire. But this time, instead of acquiring territory or eliminating competition, he was orchestrating their escape, their chance at something different. When do we leave? She asked. Tomorrow at dawn. Private plane to Missoula, then a 3-hour drive to the ranch. We'll arrive before dark, get settled. Dante looked at Emma, his expression softening. I know this isn't what you imagined. Running away, hiding out in the middle of nowhere with a newborn. It's not running, Emma interrupted. It's choosing to protect our daughter, choosing to try for something better. There's a difference. That night, Emma packed the essentials for Sophia. Clothes, blankets, the medical supplies Dr. Winters had provided. The baby was sleeping more peacefully now, settling into something resembling a routine. Emma watched her daughter's tiny chest rise and fall, marveling at the perfection of her, the impossible reality of her existence. I'm going to give you the childhood I never had, Emma whispered. Safe, stable, free from fear, even if it means living in the middle of nowhere, even if it means your father has to give up everything he's ever known. Dante found her there, standing over Sophia's bassinet in the pre-dawn darkness. He wrapped his arms around her from behind, and they stood together watching their daughter sleep. Second thoughts? He asked quietly. 1,000 of them, Emma admitted, but none of them are about leaving. They're all about whether we can really pull this off, whether exile and isolation will be enough to keep her safe. It has to be, Dante said fiercely, because the alternative, staying here, raising her in this world, that's not an option. Not anymore. I saw the way Vittorio looked at the ultrasound pictures after the tribunal, like he was calculating her value as a bargaining chip. That's when I knew. We can't negotiate with that kind of evil. We can only run from it. The flight to Montana was surreal. Emma had never been on a private plane before. During her marriage to Dante, she deliberately avoided the trappings of his wealth, uncomfortable with the source of his money. But now, holding Sophia against her chest as they soared over the Midwest, she had to admit the privacy and comfort were necessary. The baby slept through most of the flight, lulled by the engine noise and Emma's steady heartbeat. Dante spent the flight on his phone, making final arrangements. Emma heard him talking to various lieutenants, giving orders for the continued restructuring of his business operations. He was delegating more and more to trusted men, stepping back from day-to-day decisions, creating distance between himself and the organization. "Is it hard?" Emma asked during one of his breaks between calls. "Letting go of so much control?" Dante looked at Sophia, sleeping peacefully in Emma's arms, and shook his head. "Not as hard as I thought it would be. Turns out there are things more important than power." Who knew? There was a lightness in his tone that Emma hadn't heard in years. Like a weight was lifting from his shoulders with each mile they put between themselves and Chicago. The drive from Missoula to the ranch was stunning. Mountains rose on all sides, their peaks still snow-capped even in late spring. Pine forests gave way to rolling meadows, and the air smelled clean and sharp, nothing like the exhaust and industry of the city. Sophia woke up as they turned off the highway onto a long private drive. She fussed a little, hungry and uncomfortable from the car seat, but Emma soothed her with soft words and promises of milk soon. Then the ranch came into view, and Emma's breath caught. The photos hadn't done it justice. The main house was magnificent, timber and stone and glass nestled against the mountainside like it had grown there naturally. Horses grazed in distant pastures, and the late afternoon sun painted everything in shades of gold. "Welcome home," Dante said quietly. An older couple came out to greet them, the Hendersons. Salt and pepper hair, weathered faces, kind eyes that widened slightly when they saw Emma's post-pregnancy state and the tiny bundle in her arms. "Mr. Sterling," the man said, using whatever fake name Dante had given them. "We weren't expecting a baby." "Recent development," Dante said smoothly, helping Emma out of the car. "This is my wife Emma and our daughter Sophia. We'll need the house prepared for an infant, nursery supplies, safety measures, whatever you'd recommend." Mrs. Henderson's face softened immediately. "Oh, let me see her. What a precious little thing. How old?" 8 days, Emma said. 8 days and already traveling across the country. She's a brave one." Mrs. Henderson smiled. "Don't you worry, dear. We raised 4 of our own. I'll have everything you need brought in by tomorrow." The main house was even more beautiful inside. Hardwood floors, exposed beams, a massive fireplace in the great room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the mountains, and the kitchen was chef quality despite the remote location. "The master suite is upstairs," Mr. Henderson explained, leading them through. 3 other bedrooms on this floor, plus the guest cottage out back if you need more space for your security team. Luca and Antonio would stay in the guest cottage, Dante explained later. Close enough to respond to threats, but far enough to give the family privacy. As much privacy as anyone could have while living under armed guard. Emma fed Sophia in the master bedroom, looking out at the sunset painting the mountains purple and orange. The baby nursed contentedly, her tiny hand resting against Emma's breast, and for the first time in months, maybe years, Emma felt something like peace. Dante came in carrying boxes. Mrs. Henderson found a bassinet in storage from when their grandchildren visited. "She's washing the linens now. We'll need to order a proper crib, but this will work for tonight." He set up the bassinet with surprising efficiency, then sat beside Emma on the bed, watching Sophia eat. "She's perfect," he said softly. "Absolutely perfect." "She is," Emma agreed, "and terrified as I am about everything. About Vittorio and your organization and whether we can really make this work. I'm glad she exists. I'm glad we have her." "Me too." Dante reached out, stroking Sophia's downy black hair. "When I thought I'd lost you, when you'd been gone for 2 years, there were days I wasn't sure I could keep going. Days when the weight of everything I'd done, everyone I'd hurt, felt like too much to bear. But you gave me this. Gave me her. A second chance, a reason to be better." Emma leaned into him, careful not to jostle the feeding baby. "Don't put that on her, Dante. Don't make her responsible for your redemption. That's too heavy a burden for anyone, especially a child." "I'm not," Dante said. "She's the inspiration, not the reason. The reason is me, my choice to change. But having her, having you both, it makes the choice easier. makes the sacrifice feel less like loss and more like gain. After Sophia fell asleep, they ate dinner in the great room, a meal Mrs. Henderson had prepared and left warming in the oven. Roasted chicken, vegetables from the ranch's garden, fresh bread. Simple food, but delicious, and Emma ate more than she had in days. I could get used to this, she admitted, looking out at the darkening mountains. The quiet, the space. No sirens, no traffic, no constant noise. That's the idea, Dante said. Build a life here, a real life. Raise Sophia where she can run and play without bodyguards following her every move. But what about your business? Your responsibilities in Chicago? You can't just abandon everything. I'm not abandoning it. I'm delegating it, transforming it into something that doesn't require my constant presence. Dante leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. I've been thinking about what you said, about how some stains don't wash out, some sins can't be forgiven. You were right. I can't erase my past, but I can stop adding to it, can choose a different future. Emma wanted to believe him, desperately wanted to trust that this could work, that they could build something clean and honest here in the mountains. But that night, as she lay awake listening to Sophia's soft breathing and Dante's steady heartbeat beside her, her phone buzzed with a message. Unknown number. Again. You think running will save you. You think distance equals safety. But I want you to know something, Emma. I will never stop. Not until Dante understands what it means to lose everything he loves. Not until he pays for his betrayal. Enjoy your mountain retreat. Enjoy playing house with your daughter. Because it won't last. Nothing good ever does in our world. Emma stared at the message, ice flooding her veins. Vittorio. Still watching. Still threatening. Still determined to destroy them. She should tell Dante, should wake him and show him the text and let him mobilize his resources to trace it, to find his uncle and end this once and for all. But Dante looked peaceful for the first time in weeks, his face relaxed in sleep, one arm draped protectively over Emma's waist. And Sophia was sleeping soundly in her bassinet, unaware of the danger lurking in the digital shadows. Emma deleted the message and set her phone aside. Tomorrow. She'd tell him tomorrow. Tonight, she'd let them all have this one night of peace, this one night of pretending they were just a normal family in a beautiful home, safe from the world. But sleep eluded her. She lay awake watching the moon rise over the mountains, tracking its arc across the sky while her mind raced through possibilities and plans and fears. How had Vittorio gotten her new number? The phone Dante had given her was supposed to be secure, untraceable, which meant either Vittorio had resources they'd underestimated or there was a leak somewhere close to them. The thought made Emma's stomach churn. Luca and Antonio were the only ones who knew exactly where they were. Both men were loyal to Dante, had proven themselves repeatedly. But loyalty could be bought or broken, especially when threatened with the right leverage. Sophia stirred in her sleep, making small noises that pulled Emma from her dark thoughts. She got up carefully, not wanting to wake Dante, and lifted their daughter from the bassinet. The baby was warm and soft, her tiny body fitting perfectly against Emma's chest. I won't let anything happen to you, Emma whispered into Sophia's downy hair. I don't care what I have to do, who I have to become. You're going to be safe. She walked to the window, swaying gently to keep Sophia settled, and looked out at the vast Montana night. The ranch sprawled below, bathed in moonlight, peaceful and isolated. But isolation was a double-edged sword. It meant privacy and safety from casual discovery. It also meant vulnerability if someone did find them. No neighbors to hear screams, no police 5 minutes away. They were on their own out here. Just Dante, 2 guards, and Emma's fierce determination to protect her child. Would it be enough? The next day brought Dr. Reeves, a no-nonsense man in his 60s who examined Sophia with competent efficiency and pronounced her in excellent health. For a preemie, she's doing remarkably well, he said, making notes in his tablet. Good weight gain, strong reflexes, no respiratory issues. You're doing everything right, Emma. Thank you, Emma said, relieved. She'd been worried about bringing such a young baby to such a remote location, away from hospital facilities and immediate medical care. After Dr. Reeves left, Emma found Dante in his office, a room on the first floor that overlooked the stables. He was on a video call, his expression serious as he talked to someone about quarterly earnings and real estate acquisitions. When he noticed Emma in the doorway, he wrapped up the call quickly. Everything okay with Sophia? he asked immediately. Perfect. Dr. Reeves says she's thriving. Emma paused, then pulled out her phone and showed him the message from last night. She watched Dante's face go from concerned to furious in the space of a heartbeat. He read the message 3 times, his jaw getting tighter with each pass. When did you get this? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Last night, around midnight. And you didn't wake me? You looked peaceful. I thought one night wouldn't matter. Dante stood, pacing to the window. Every night matters when Vittorio is actively threatening you, actively finding ways to contact you despite every security measure we've put in place. He pulled out his own phone, making a call. Luca, get in here now. The young man arrived within minutes, his expression shifting to alarm when he saw Dante's face. We have a security breach, Dante said flatly, showing him Emma's phone. Vittorio got this number. This supposedly secure, untraceable number, which means either our security isn't as good as we thought or someone is feeding him information. Luca studied the message, his face paling. Boss, I swear, neither Antonio nor I would ever. I'm not accusing you, Dante interrupted. But someone knows we're here. Someone is giving Vittorio enough information to keep harassing Emma. I need you to find out how. After Luca left, Dante pulled Emma into his arms. I'm sorry, he said into her hair. I promised you'd be safe here, promised this would be different. We've been here less than 48 hours, Emma pointed out. You can't solve everything in 2 days, Dante. I can try. He pulled back, cupping her face in his hands. I need you to promise me something. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, you tell me immediately. No waiting for peaceful sleep or trying to protect me from worry. Our safety depends on communication. I promise, Emma said. But even as she said it, she wondered if promises meant anything in a world where uncles betrayed nephews and exile meant nothing, and threats followed them across 1,000 miles of distance. That afternoon, while Sophia napped, Emma explored the ranch grounds with Mrs. Henderson as a guide. The older woman pointed out the gardens, the chicken coops, the horses grazing in distant pastures. It's a good place to raise a child, Mrs. Henderson said, smiling. Open spaces, clean air, honest work, very different from the city. Very different, Emma agreed, watching a hawk circle overhead. Mr. Sterling seems like a good man, Mrs. Henderson continued. A bit intense, maybe, but the way he looks at you and that baby, that's real love. That's the kind of love that lasts. Emma wanted to believe her, wanted to trust that love could overcome everything else, but she'd learned the hard way that love wasn't always enough, that sometimes the best love in the world couldn't protect you from the consequences of the past. Still, watching Dante that evening as he held Sophia and sang to her in Italian, a lullaby his mother had sung to him as a child, Emma felt hope flickering despite her fear. He was trying so hard, changing so much. Maybe it would be enough. Maybe they really could build something here. That night, Emma's phone stayed silent. No messages from Vittorio. No threats. Just peaceful quiet, broken only by Sophia's occasional fussing and the wind in the pines outside. But Emma didn't let herself relax. Didn't let herself believe the silence meant safety. Because she'd learned that in Dante's world, their world, the quiet moments were often just the pause before the storm. And somewhere out there, Vittorio was planning, waiting, biding his time until he could strike in a way that would hurt them most. Emma held Sophia closer, watching the baby sleep, and made a silent vow. Whatever came next, whatever Vittorio tried, whatever danger found them in this mountain refuge, she would be ready. Because she was a mother now, and mothers would do anything, become anything, sacrifice anything to protect their children. Even if it meant becoming as ruthless as the men who threatened them. Even if it meant stepping into the darkness she'd spent so long trying to escape. For Sophia, Emma would do whatever it took. And that certainty, that fierce, unbreakable determination, was both terrifying and empowering. The question was whether Dante was ready for what Emma might become in defense of their daughter. Whether he understood that the woman who'd run from his world 2 years ago wasn't the same woman who would fight for it now. Everything had changed the moment Sophia entered the world, and Emma was beginning to realize that sometimes the only way to escape the darkness was to turn and face it head on her own terms, in her own way. The storm was coming, but this time Emma wouldn't run from it. This time, she'd be ready. The storm arrived 3 weeks later, but not in the way Emma expected. She woke to Dante shaking her shoulder gently, his face illuminated by the glow of his phone screen in the pre-dawn darkness. Sophia was asleep in the crib they'd finally assembled, her tiny chest rising and falling with peaceful breaths. "What's wrong?" Emma whispered, sitting up. "Luca traced the messages," Dante said quietly. "It wasn't Vittorio." Emma's stomach dropped. "What do you mean it wasn't him? The phone sending those threats, it was registered to one of Vittorio's men. But that man has been dead for 2 weeks, killed in a car accident in Nevada." Dante's expression was grim. Someone wanted us to think it was Vittorio. Someone wanted us focused on him while they made their real move. Who? But even as Emma asked, she felt pieces clicking into place. The too convenient timing. The threats that seemed designed to terrify, but never actually materialized into action. "The Morettis," Dante said flatly. "Antonio confirmed it an hour ago. They've been quietly acquiring my businesses in Chicago, buying out partners, making offers that can't be refused. They played neutral during the tribunal, sided with me against Vittorio, all while positioning themselves to take over everything I'm stepping away from." Emma's mind raced. But why the threats? Why make me think Vittorio was coming after us? "To keep me here. To keep me focused on protecting you instead of protecting my interests in Chicago. While I've been playing house in Montana, they've been systematically dismantling everything my family built." Dante's voice was tight with controlled fury. "They didn't want a war. They wanted me distracted and absent, and it worked." "What are you going to do?" Dante was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on Sophia sleeping peacefully in her crib. "I have a choice to make. I can go back to Chicago, fight to reclaim what's being taken, reassert my authority. Or I can let it go. Let them have it all. Walk away for good." Emma studied his face, seeing the war raging behind his eyes. Everything his grandfather and father had built. Decades of power and influence and control. He could fight for it. Probably win, given his connections and ruthlessness when necessary. But fighting meant returning to that world. Meant choosing the empire over the family he'd promised to prioritize. "What do you want to do?" she asked carefully. "I want—" Dante broke off, running his hands through his hair. "I want to burn it all down. Want to make them pay for manipulating us, for using you and Sophia as pawns. But that's the old me talking, the man who measured worth in power and territory." "And the new you?" Dante looked at Sophia again, his expression softening. "The new me wants to let them choke on it, take the whole poisoned empire and suffer the consequences. Because everything I built in Chicago, it's all dirty money and blood debts and compromises that eat at your soul. They think they're taking something valuable. Let them discover the real cost." Emma felt something loosen in her chest. "You mean it? You'd actually walk away?" "I already have," Dante said simply. "The moment I got on that plane with you and Sophia, I made my choice. Chicago, the organization, all of it, that's my past. This—" He gestured around the bedroom, at the ranch beyond, at the life they'd been building. "This is my future, if I'm willing to fight for it." "Then what happens now?" Emma asked. "Now I call the Morettis and tell them they can have Chicago, all of it. In exchange for a binding agreement, they leave us alone. Forever. No coming after us for revenge, no using Sophia as leverage down the line, no unfinished business. We disappear, and they pretend we never existed." It sounded too simple, too clean. "They'll agree to that. They want legitimacy, want to be seen as the family that brought order after the Castellanos fell apart. Having me publicly step down, transfer everything to them, endorse the transition, that's worth more than revenge." Dante's smile was bitter. "Besides, they know I still have cards to play. Evidence that could destroy them if it ever reached the FBI. Insurance policies I've been building for years. They'll take the deal because it's better than the alternative." The sun was rising by the time Dante made the calls, Emma listening from the bedroom while Sophia nursed contentedly. She heard his voice drift up from the office below, calm and authoritative as he negotiated the terms of his own abdication. When he returned an hour later, he looked drained, but also lighter somehow. Like he'd finally set down a weight he'd been carrying so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to stand upright. "It's done," he said simply. "They're drawing up the paperwork. By the end of the week, the Moretti family will control everything that was mine, and we'll be free. Just like that? Just like that. Dante sat beside her on the bed, watching Sophia eat. There are conditions, of course. I stay out of Chicago. Don't try to rebuild or reclaim anything. Keep my knowledge of their operations to myself unless they violate our agreement, but those are terms I can live with. Emma shifted Sophia to her other breast, the baby protesting the interruption before latching on again. What about Vittorio? Is he really in Nevada? Really dead? No. Dante's expression darkened. Antonio tracked him to Mexico. He's alive, living in exile like the tribunal ordered. The car accident was one of his lieutenants, probably killed by the Morettis to tie up loose ends and steal his phone for their psychological warfare. So he's still out there, still a threat. He's a broken man in a foreign country with no organization, no resources, and no way back, Dante said. The family's made it clear. If he sets foot in the States again, it's a death sentence. He's not the threat anymore, Emma. If anything, he's pathetic, spending his exile drinking tequila and telling stories about the empire he almost had. There was something sad in Dante's voice, and Emma realized he was mourning, not the loss of his uncle, but the loss of what family should have meant, the betrayal of blood ties that were supposed to be sacred. I'm sorry, she said softly. Don't be. Vittorio made his choices, just like I'm making mine. Dante reached out, stroking Sophia's head gently. I choose this. Choose you. Choose her. Choose a life where the worst thing I have to worry about is whether the horses need new shoes or if we planted enough vegetables for winter. Emma wanted to believe it could be that simple, that they could really just walk away and build something clean and honest. But she'd lived in Dante's world long enough to know that exits were rarely clean. What if they come back, she asked, years from now when Sophia's older? What if someone decides unfinished business needs finishing? Then I'll handle it, Dante said quietly. But Emma, you need to understand the agreement we're making, it's binding in ways that matter in our world. The Morettis are ambitious, but they're also pragmatic. Going after us would cost them more than they'd gain. They're getting everything they wanted. There's no percentage in making enemies of ghosts. Over the following days, Emma watched Dante transform. He threw himself into ranch life with the same intensity he'd once applied to criminal enterprise. Learning to mend fences, working with the horses, planning crop rotations with Mr. Henderson. His expensive suits stayed packed away in favor of jeans and work shirts. His hands, once manicured and soft, developed calluses. And with Sophia, he was utterly devoted. He learned to change diapers one-handed while reading market reports on his tablet, mastered the art of the 2 a.m. bottle feeding, walked the ranch's perimeter with their daughter strapped to his chest in a carrier, talking to her about the mountains and sky and the life they were going to build together. Emma fell in love with him all over again, not the dangerous crime boss she'd married in a whirlwind of passion and poor judgment, but this version, the man who sang Italian lullabies while cooking breakfast, who researched childhood development with the same focus he'd once applied to business acquisitions, who looked at their daughter like she was the most precious thing in the universe. 3 weeks after the calls to Chicago, Luca appeared at the ranch house with a manila envelope. The final papers, he said, handing them to Dante. Everything's been transferred. The Morettis own it all now. Legally, officially, irreversibly. Dante opened the envelope, scanning the documents. Deeds, corporate transfers, release agreements. The formal dissolution of everything his family had built over 3 generations. How do you feel, boss? Luca asked quietly. Dante looked up, glancing around the ranch house kitchen where Emma was making lunch and Sophia was sleeping in a bouncer on the counter. Don't call me boss anymore, he said with a slight smile. I'm not your boss. I'm just Dante, and I feel... He paused, seeming to search for the right word. Free. For the first time in my life, I feel free. Luca nodded, understanding in his eyes. Antonio and I have been talking. If you don't need us anymore, we were thinking about heading back to Chicago. Try to find work with the new organization. You're always welcome to stay, Dante said. But I understand if you want to go back. That life, it gets in your blood. Hard to walk away from even when you know you should. No offense, but feeding chickens and mending fences isn't really my speed, Luca said with a grin. I'm a city guy. Need the noise and chaos. After Luca left, Emma found Dante standing on the porch, looking out at the mountains. Are you really okay with this? She asked, slipping her hand into his. Letting it all go? I'm more than okay, Dante said. I'm grateful. The Morettis did me a favor, forcing my hand, made me commit fully instead of trying to straddle two worlds. Now there's no going back, no second guessing, just forward. That night they sat together on the porch swing while Sophia slept inside, the baby monitor crackling softly between them. The stars were brilliant in the Montana sky, unpolluted by city lights stretching endlessly overhead. Do you think she'll be happy here? Emma asked, meaning Sophia. Growing up so isolated, so far from everything. I think she'll be free here, Dante replied. Free to be whoever she wants to be, without the weight of family legacy or expectations. She'll have space to run, air to breathe, a father who can actually be present instead of constantly looking over his shoulder. And what about you? Will you be happy? Dante turned to look at her, his gray eyes reflecting starlight. I'm already happy, Emma. Happier than I've been in years, maybe ever. Because I finally understand what actually matters, not power or respect or control. Just this. Just us. Just love. Emma leaned into him, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. I love you, she said softly. I never stopped, even when I ran, even when I was terrified of what loving you meant. I know, Dante said. And I love you. Both of you. Enough to give up everything else. Enough to become someone completely different. Enough to mean it when I say I'd do it all over again exactly the same way if it led me here. The weeks turned into months, and the ranch settled into rhythms. Sophia grew, hitting milestones that made Emma's heart swell with pride. First smile, first laugh, rolling over, then sitting up, then crawling with determined speed toward anything shiny or interesting. Dante proved himself remarkably handy, fixing broken equipment and improving the property. He built Sophia a sandbox, a swing set, a small garden plot that he declared would be hers to tend when she was older. Emma found peace in the routines of ranch life. Morning feedings as the sun rose over the mountains, afternoon walks with Sophia in a carrier exploring trails and meadows, evenings on the porch with Dante while their daughter played on a blanket, grabbing at grass and squealing with delight. Dr. Reeves became a regular visitor, charmed by Sophia and impressed by how well she was thriving. You'd never know she was premature, he said during one checkup. She's hitting every milestone right on time. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Mrs. Henderson took to grandmother duties with enthusiasm, teaching Emma to bake bread and can vegetables, sharing stories of her own children and grandchildren. Mr. Henderson taught Dante the intricacies of ranch management, the two men developing an easy friendship built on mutual respect and hard work. 6 months after arriving in Montana, Emma and Dante stood in the master bedroom of their ranch house and watched Sophia sleep in her crib. No longer the tiny, fragile preemie, but a healthy, thriving baby with chubby cheeks and Dante's dark eyes. We did it, Emma said softly. We actually did it. We're still doing it, Dante corrected. Every day, every choice. Choosing this life over that one. Choosing each other. Emma turned to face him. Do you have any regrets? Any moments where you wish you'd fought for Chicago instead of walking away? Dante was quiet for a moment, considering. Sometimes I wonder what happened to certain people. Wonder if the Morettis are managing things well or running them into the ground. Wonder if the men who worked for me found decent positions or ended up on the street. He paused. But regret? No. Because whatever is happening in Chicago, I'm not responsible for it anymore. I'm only responsible for this. For you and Sophia and building something good. We should get married again, Emma said suddenly. Dante's eyebrows rose. We're already married. We're legally married. But that was the old us, the people we used to be. I want to marry you again, the real you. The man who builds swing sets and sings lullabies and chooses love over power every single day. Dante pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. Then we'll do it. Small ceremony, just us and Sophia and whoever we want to include. Fresh start, new vows, new promises. They were married 6 weeks later in the ranch's meadow, with Sophia as their only witness and Mr. and Mrs. Henderson standing in as witnesses. Dr. Reeves officiated, using his authority as a notary public to make it legal. Emma wore a simple white dress, wildflowers in her hair. Dante wore jeans and a clean shirt, his feet bare in the grass. Sophia sat in a bouncer between them, babbling happily and grabbing at the ribbons tied to her carrier. The vows they spoke were nothing like their first wedding. No mention of tradition or duty or family legacy, just simple promises to love and honor and choose each other every day for as long as they lived. When Dante kissed Emma, sealing their new marriage, Sophia squealed as if in approval. They both laughed, pulling apart to look at their daughter, and Emma felt her heart so full it seemed impossible it could contain so much joy. That night, after Sophia was asleep, Emma and Dante lay in bed talking about the future. Real plans now, not just desperate hopes. "I want to start a foundation," Dante said. "Use the money I managed to keep, the legitimate investments that were never dirty. Help people escaping violent situations, women and children fleeing abuse. Give them what I'm giving you, a chance to start over somewhere safe." Emma turned to look at him, surprised. That's beautiful, Dante." "It's penance," he said quietly. "For all the times I enabled violence, all the times I looked the other way when men in my organization hurt their families, all the damage I did or allowed to be done. I can't undo any of it, but I can try to balance the scales." "We could do it together," Emma said. "I could help. I know what it's like to run, to be afraid, to need resources but have nowhere to turn. I could make sure the foundation actually helps instead of just being a tax write-off or PR move." They talked late into the night, planning and dreaming. A foundation that would provide safe houses, legal support, job training, counseling. That would help people rebuild their lives far from the violence and fear that had defined their pasts. It felt right. Felt like taking all the darkness they'd both known and transforming it into something that could actually heal. Over the following year they built it, the Sophia Foundation, named for their daughter and the hope she represented. They started small, buying a house in Missoula and converting it into a shelter for women and children, hiring counselors and legal advocates, spreading the word through domestic violence networks that there was help available, no questions asked, no judgments made. Emma threw herself into the work, using her own experience of hiding and running to inform their policies. Dante used his understanding of how abusers operated, how they tracked and controlled, to build better security measures and protection protocols. And Sophia grew, oblivious to the foundation bearing her name, focused instead on the important work of learning to walk and talk and explore the vast world of the ranch. On Sophia's second birthday, Emma stood in the meadow watching Dante teach their daughter to feed the horses. The little girl squealed with delight as the gentle mare took an apple from her tiny hand, Dante's arms wrapped protectively around her to keep her safe. "Gentle, Piccola," Dante murmured. "Let her come to you. That's it. Good girl." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. Happy tears this time, not the frightened, desperate tears she'd cried so often during her pregnancy. These were tears of gratitude, of wonder, of the kind of deep peace she'd never imagined possible. Mrs. Henderson came to stand beside her, watching the scene with a warm smile. "He's a good father," she said, "and you're a good mother. That little girl is lucky to have you both." "We're the lucky ones," Emma replied. "She saved us, gave us a reason to be better than we were." "That's what children do," Mrs. Henderson said wisely. "They show us who we want to be. Then they give us the strength to become it." That evening, they celebrated Sophia's birthday with a small party. Just their little family and the Hendersons and Dr. Reeves, who'd become almost like a grandfather to Sophia. There was cake and presents, and the little girl's delighted laughter as she tore into wrapping paper. After everyone left and Sophia was in bed, exhausted and sticky with frosting, Emma and Dante sat on their porch watching the sun set over the mountains. "Do you ever hear from anyone in Chicago?" Emma asked. It had been nearly 2 years since they'd left, and the silence from their old life was complete. "Luca sends a message occasionally," Dante admitted. "Just checking in, letting me know he's okay. He and Antonio are working for the Morettis now, doing well, apparently." "Do you miss it at all? The excitement, the power, the adrenaline?" Dante considered the question seriously. "Sometimes I miss the feeling of competence, of being good at something difficult and dangerous, But then I watched Sophia learn to stack blocks or listen to you laugh or wake up without worrying about who might be planning to kill me that day. And I remember that this is harder. Building something good is so much harder than destroying or controlling, but it's worth it in ways the old life never was. Emma leaned into him, content. We should take Sophia to the ocean, she said. Show her something besides mountains and ranch land. Next summer, Dante agreed. Rent a house on the coast for a month, build sandcastles and collect shells, teach her to swim. They made plans, dreaming aloud about the future, not with fear or desperate hope, but with the calm certainty of people who'd survived the storm and come out stronger. That night, Emma woke to find Dante standing over Sophia's crib, just watching their daughter sleep. She joined him, slipping her hand into his. What are you thinking about? She whispered. About how close we came to missing this, Dante said quietly. If you hadn't come back that day, if you'd just sent the divorce papers by mail, if I'd let my pride override my heart, we could have missed everything. Sophia could have grown up not knowing me. I could have spent the rest of my life in that darkness, never understanding what I was missing. But we didn't miss it, Emma reminded him. We found our way back to each other, and we're here now. Oh, we're here now, Dante repeated, like a prayer. And I'm never taking that for granted, not for a single day. They stood together in the darkness, watching their daughter sleep, and Emma felt the last pieces of fear finally release their hold on her heart. They'd done it. Against all odds, despite everything that could have gone wrong, they'd built something real and good and lasting. Vittorio was somewhere in Mexico, drinking away his exile. The Morettis were running Chicago, dealing with all the complications and compromises that came with that power. And the Castellano family, what was left of it, was here in Montana, feeding horses and building swing sets and learning that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was walk away. Years would pass. Sophia would grow into a bright, confident child who knew nothing of her father's dark past, who thought ranch life was normal and couldn't imagine living any other way. The foundation would expand, helping dozens and then hundreds of people start over. Emma and Dante would grow old together, their love deepening with each shared sunrise, each challenge overcome, each moment of simple joy. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when Sophia was asleep and the ranch was peaceful, Dante would look at Emma and say the same thing he'd said on that terrible day when she'd walked back into his life. Thank you for giving me this chance. I won't waste it. And Emma would smile and reply, you haven't. You never did. Because that was the truth. Dante had taken the second chance she'd reluctantly given him and transformed it into something neither of them could have imagined. He'd chosen love over legacy, family over empire, healing over harm, and in doing so, he'd become the man she'd always hoped he could be. The man their daughter would grow up knowing, not the dangerous crime boss who'd once ruled Chicago with an iron fist, but simply Dante, father, husband, rancher, founder of a charity that helped others escape the kind of life he'd left behind. A man who'd learned that true power wasn't about control or fear or respect earned through violence. True power was the strength to change, to choose differently, to build instead of destroy. And as Emma drifted back to sleep that night, Dante's arm around her and Sophia's soft breathing a lullaby in the darkness, she finally believed what she'd been too afraid to hope for during all those months of running. They were safe. They were free. They were home. And this hard-won peace, this love that had survived everything meant to destroy it, this family they'd built from the ashes of their old lives, this was forever. The storm had passed. The war was over. And in its wake, something beautiful had grown. Something worth every sacrifice, every fear, every moment of doubt. Something called hope, and second chances, and the stubborn, transformative power of love.